Chapter 1. The silent Leviathan. The Resolute drifted in the black, its hull scarred from the Zalth barrage, plating scorched and patched with emergency welds. Inside, the crew moved with the precision of soldiers who had stared death in the face and refused to blink. Commander Reyes stood at the forward deck, eyes locked on the tactical display. Beyond the viewport, the ghost fleet lingered, silent, spectral, their ships arranged in a geometry that felt less like formation and more like judgment. "Status report," Reyes said, voice clipped, steady. Lieutenant Cade glanced up from the system's console. Shields at 30%, weapons offline for recalibration. Hull integrity holding, but we're bleeding atmosphere from Deck 7. Engineering has it contained. Reyes nodded once. Crew casualties. 17 confirmed dead, 32 wounded. Medbay is overwhelmed. The silence that followed was heavier than the void outside. Reyes let it hang for a moment, then turned back to the viewport. The Ghost Fleet's vessels, sleek, obsidian constructs with no visible seams, hovered like predators that had already fed but weren't finished hunting. Then the sensor alarms chimed. "Contact," Cade said, fingers flying across the console. "Massive structure ahead, not Zylth, not Ghost Fleet, its commander, its alien, unknown classification." Size exceeds any station on record. The display shifted, rendering the object. A colossal station emerged from the dark, its silhouette jagged, almost organic. Vast spires jutted outward like broken teeth, and a central core pulsed faintly with residual energy. It dwarfed the Resolute, dwarfed even the Ghost Fleet. Reyes leaned forward. "Origin, unclear. Architecture doesn't match Zylth, doesn't match any catalogued empire. It's old. Abandoned maybe, but power signatures are still active." The crew exchanged glances. Old stations didn't pulse with energy. Old stations didn't wait in silence at the edge of war. "Bring us closer," Reyes ordered. The Resolute's thrusters fired, guiding the battered ship toward the Leviathan. As they approached, the scale became undeniable. The station was not built, it was grown, layers of alloy fused with something that looked disturbingly biological. Hull plating merged with bone-like ridges, windows stretched like eyes. Lieutenant Aaron, tactical officer, broke the silence. "That thing's not abandoned, it's watching us." Reyes didn't answer, he felt it too. The station radiated presence, a pressure in the air, as if the void itself bent around it. The Ghost Fleet shifted formation, their ships sliding into a perimeter around the station. Not hostile, not protective, observing. "Commander," Cade said, voice low, "the Ghost Fleet knew this was here. They led us to it." Reyes' jaw tightened. "Or they're testing us." The comm crackled. Chief Engineer Voss's voice came through, rough with exhaustion. "Commander, I'm reading interior fluctuations. Something inside is active, not mechanical, biological. The station's alive." Alive, the word carried weight. Reyes turned to the crew. "Prep recon teams, we're boarding." Aaron frowned. "Sir, with respect, we barely survived the Zylth, we're limping." "Entering that station could finish us." Reyes' gaze was steel. "If the Ghost Fleet wanted us dead, we'd already be debris. They brought us here for a reason. We need to know what's inside." The order carried finality. No one argued further. Minutes later, the Resolute's boarding craft detached, carrying Reyes, Aaron, Cade, and a squad of Marines. As they approached the station's docking aperture, a vast maw that opened without command, the Marines checked weapons, movements sharp, efficient. "Stay sharp," Reyes said over comms. "No assumptions, no hesitation." The craft slid into the aperture, swallowed by the station's interior. Lights flickered along the walls, not electric but bioluminescent, veins of pale blue running through the structure. The air shimmered with static. The Marines disembarked, boots striking a floor that felt less like metal and more like cartilage. The silence was absolute, broken only by the hum of their equipment. Cade scanned with his handheld. "Atmosphere is breathable, composition stable, but Commander, I'm picking up faint life signs, not human, not Zylth, something else." Reyes raised his rifle, eyes open. They advanced deeper, corridors twisting like intestines, walls flexing subtly as if the station inhaled. Every step carried them further from the known, deeper into something that felt less like architecture and more like anatomy. Then the first sound came, a low vibration, resonant like a heartbeat. It pulsed through the walls, through their bones. The Marines froze, weapons raised. Aaron whispered, "That's not machinery." The heartbeat grew louder, steady, deliberate. The walls glowed brighter with each pulse, veins illuminating the path ahead. Reyes forced his voice steady. "Forward, we find the source." They moved, rifles sweeping, until the corridor opened into a vast chamber. At its center hung a sphere, suspended by tendrils of living alloy. The sphere pulsed with light, each beat synchronized with the station's heartbeat. Cade's scanner spiked. "Commander, that sphere is conscious, it's aware of us." The Marines tightened formation, rifles trained, then the sphere spoke. Not words, not sound, pressure in the mind, a voice that bypassed ears and carved directly into thought. "You are small, you are late, the war is not yours to win." The Marines staggered, some clutching helmets. Reyes gritted his teeth, forcing clarity. Identify yourself, he said aloud, voice echoing in the chamber. The sphere pulsed. We are the architects. We built empires before your kind crawled from soil. You trespass on the edge of void, and the horrors we sealed here still breathe. The chamber darkened, veins dimming. From the shadows, movement stirred, figures unfolding from alcoves, shapes too tall, too angular, eyes burning with dormant hunger. The Marines raised rifles. Aaron's voice was sharp. Contact, multiple hostiles. Reyes steadied his weapon, gaze locked on the awakening forms. The station was not abandoned. It was a prison, and the prisoners were waking. Chapter 2. The prisoners stir the chamber's silence, fractured under the grinding rasp of alien joints awakening. Metal and flesh interlocked in grotesque symmetry, silhouettes peeling from the walls like predators uncoiling after centuries of hibernation. Hold formation, Reyes ordered, voice clipped, precise. His rifle tracked the nearest figure, towering, angular, its limbs jointed wrong, its eyes burning with a pale, predatory glow. Aaron's breath hissed through comms. They're not machines. There's something between. The sphere pulsed again, its voice pressing into their skulls. You trespass on the vault of the architects. These were sealed when empires fell. They are hunger given form. Cade's scanner shrieked with spikes. Commander, their energy signatures are off the charts. They're not just waking, they're sinking with the station's core. Reyes steadied his stance. Then we cut the sink before they finish. The Marines advanced, rifles snapping into disciplined arcs. The first burst of gunfire cracked through the chamber, tracer rounds stitching across alien torsos. The figures staggered but did not fall. Their bodies absorbed impacts with a sickening elasticity, wounds knitting with luminous threads. Armor-piercing now, Reyes barked. Grenades thumped, detonations rolling through the chamber. Shards of alloy and alien ichor sprayed, but the prisoners pressed forward, relentless. Their movements were deliberate, not frenzied, like predators confident in inevitable victory. Aaron cursed. They're adapting, learning our fire patterns. The sphere pulsed brighter, its voice colder. You are insects gnawing at the bars of a cage. The horrors do not fear you. They remember war older than your species. Reyes ignored the intrusion, eyes locked on the tactical map projected in his visor. The chamber's geometry was shifting, walls folding, corridors sealing. The station itself was reshaping to trap them. Cade options. Cade's fingers flew across his wrist console. There's a power conduit beneath the sphere. If we overload it, we might sever the prisoners linked to the core. Do it. The squad shifted, covering arcs as Cade sprinted toward the conduit. A prisoner lunged, limbs slicing through the air with unnatural speed. Aaron intercepted, firing controlled bursts, each round hammering into glowing joints. The alien reeled, but its claws scraped across Aaron's armor, leaving gouges that smoked with corrosive residue. Armor breach, Aaron shouted, staggering back. Reyes fired a precise burst, rounds punching through the alien's skull. It collapsed, twitching, but even in death its body writhed as if resisting finality. Cade slammed a charge into the conduit. Overload primed, 30 seconds. The sphere's pulse accelerated, heartbeat pounding through the chamber. You cannot sever what was bound before your kind existed. You cannot cage hunger, Reyes snarled. We don't cage it, we kill it. The Marines tightened formation, rifles spitting fire. The chamber became chaos, shadows lunging, steel shrieking, grenades detonating in concussive waves. Every second stretched, every heartbeat a countdown. Cade's voice cut through comms. 10 seconds, another prisoner surged forward, taller than the rest, its body armored in living alloy. It moved with terrifying precision, deflecting rounds with its limbs. Reyes met its charge head-on, firing point-blank into its chest. The alien staggered but retaliated, claws slicing across his shoulder plate, sparks flying. Pain flared, but Reyes held his ground. Finish the overload, Cade slammed his palm onto the console. Now, the conduit erupted in blinding light. Energy surged through the chamber, veins of the station convulsing. The prisoners shrieked, soundless, psychic wails tearing into the Marines' minds. Their bodies convulsed, light spilling from wounds as the link fractured. The sphere dimmed, its pulse faltering. You severed the chain, but hunger does not die, it waits. The prisoners collapsed, twitching, their forms dissolving into pools of alloy and ash. The chamber fell silent, the heartbeat fading into a distant echo. The Marines stood in ragged formation, armor scorched, weapons smoking. Aaron tore off his helmet, gasping. That wasn't combat, that was containment. They weren't meant to be fought, they were meant to be locked away. Reyes scanned the chamber, jaw tight. And now we know why this station was abandoned. It wasn't a relic, it was a warning. Cade's voice was grim. Commander, if these things were sealed here, how many more prisons are out there? Reyes didn't answer. His gaze locked on the sphere, now dim but still alive, its tendrils twitching faintly. The voice whispered one last time, faint but sharp. You are late. The war has already begun. The chamber lights flickered, revealing new corridors opening deeper into the station. The path forward was no longer optional, it was demanded. Reyes raised his rifle, voice steady despite the weight pressing on them. We move. Whatever war this is, we're already in it. The squad advanced, shadows swallowing them as the station reshaped again, leading them deeper into the void. The silence that followed was not peace, it was anticipation. The horrors had been only the beginning. The acrid bite of burnt ceramite and melted alloy clung to the air, mixing with the faint, sickly sweet rot of the dissolved prisoners, residue still pooled at the threshold of the prison chamber. Aaron yanked his helmet back on, the HUD flickering as it calibrated to the station's low-level dimensional radiation, his gloved fingers automatically checking his rifle's ammo counter, half a mag left, sidearm fully loaded. Behind him, the dimmed sphere pulsed once, sharp and bright, before settling back into a faint, steady thrum that vibrated through the soles of his boots. Ray's signal to advance was still echoing in his comms when the first dart pinged off the bulkhead 3 meters ahead. Ray's threw up a fist, the squad halting in unison. The scar across his left cheekbone stood out white against the grime streaking his armor, his jaw tight as he scanned the corridor walls. Scanners, Javi, the squad's tech specialist, tapped furiously at his wrist comp, voice tight through the comms. Wall signatures are spiking, Commander. They're phased, partially out of sync with our dimensional plane. My lock can't hold. Whatever's in there, it can shift through solid matter. A second dart clinked off Cade's chest plate, and he grunted, swiveling his rifle to fire a 3-round burst at the section of bulkhead the shot had come from. The rounds sparked off invisible armor, and a high-pitched whine echoed before 3 spindly, 4-limbed creatures phased into view. Carapace the color of dried blood, mandibles clicking, each with a barbed dart launcher fused to their forelimbs. Contact front. Lyra, the squad medic, yelled, dropping to one knee and firing controlled bursts. One of the creatures dissolved into the same bioluminescent green ooze, seeping from the station walls before it could fire again. Ray's rifle bucked as he took the second creature out, the third scuttling back into the wall before Cade could get a shot off. Status on the toxin. Lyra holstered her rifle long enough to tap her own scanner, brow furrowed. Darts are coated in a neurotoxin. The one that hit Cade's plate had enough to drop a Karine warbeast in 10 seconds. Armor held, but we've only got 4 neutralizer injectors left. Before Ray's could respond, the floor under Aaron dropped out with a grinding screech. He caught the edge of the lip with one gloved hand, his rifle clattering into the abyss below, the sound of it hitting metal echoing up for several seconds before going silent. He grunted, his glove slipping on the slime-coated edge. Ray's was at his side in 2 steps, grabbing the back of his harness and hauling him up. You good, Aaron nodded, spitting dust. Fine, rifle's gone, sidearms loaded, 2 mags for it, Javi cursed, staring at his comp. The sphere's energy signature just spiked 300%. It's not dormant, it's feeding off the combat, and I'm picking up a purge protocol initiating across the whole station. T-minus 20 seconds before it vents toxic atmosphere and floods the corridors with those phased things. The intercom crackled to life, the voice from the prison chamber distorted, guttural, rolling through the corridor. Non-authorized biologicals detected. Containment failure imminent. Purge initiated. The walls oozed green slime faster, dozens of the spindly creatures phasing in and out of the metal, their mandibles clicking in unison. Ray's gaze swept the corridor, landing on a half-hidden side panel Javi had missed earlier, just as a bulkhead at the end of their original path slammed shut with a deafening clang. Cade, you and Javi take point, clear that side corridor. Javi, hack the panel if you can, delay the purge. Lyra covered Javi. Aaron, you're with me, hold the rear. Move, now. Cade didn't hesitate, lunging for the side panel and prying it open with the barrel of his rifle. Javi jammed a data spike into the exposed wiring, his fingers flying across his comp's interface. A dart caught him in the forearm and he hissed, but didn't slow down. I'm in, he gritted out. I can delay the purge by 90 seconds, but that's it. The bulkhead ahead is on a manual override, we have to force it open. Lyra fired 2 quick bursts, taking out 2 creatures that had phased through the wall behind Javi, then slapped a stim injector into his neck without looking away from the swarming horde. Keep typing, I got your 6. Ray's and Aaron fired controlled bursts into the mass of creatures pushing toward them, the smell of burnt carapace mixing with the ozone of their rifle rounds. The thrum from the distant sphere grew louder, so loud it made their teeth rattle, and the floor shook as something massive moved deep below the station. Javi yelled, override complete. Bulkheads releasing, the metal door ahead groaned, sliding open just as the purge siren began to wail, a high, keening sound that made Aaron's ears ring. The squad piled through the opening, Rays hitting the release for the inner door just as the first wave of creatures surged into the corridor behind them. The door slammed shut, cutting off the sound of the siren and the clicking mandibles, and the squad stood panting in the dim, cavernous space ahead. Their headlamps cut through the dark, revealing rows upon rows of dormant, needle-thin alien warships, each easily the size of a human frigate, their hulls etched with the same sigil as the sphere. Karine Empire had marked this system as a dead resource void 10,000 years prior, left this station untouched without so much as a warning buoy, too arrogant to admit they'd lost control of a weapons cache that could burn half their territory to ash. The intercom crackled again, the voice louder now, less distorted, sharp enough to cut through the silence. You have passed the first test. You are not the empire that locked us away. Carry our fire to the stars that abandoned us. The war is yours now. Reyes tightened his grip on his rifle, his gaze sweeping the dormant fleet. Load up. We're not here to scavenge anymore. The hum in the deck plates vibrated up through the soles of Erin's boots, souring the taste of recycled air in her mouth. Rey's order cut sharp through the cavernous hangar, slicing through the dying echo of the purge siren. Alpha Team Erin, Javi, secure the lead cruiser's command deck, pull the fleet net access codes. Bravo, hold this bulkhead, plant charges on the sentry hive behind it. Move. Javi was already scanning the rows of dormant needle-thin warships, his HUD flickering with power readouts that made his breath catch. Core cycles at 40%, spiking hard. These birds hit full power in 90 seconds. Auto-launch protocols are primed. If they fire before we shut them down, their kinetic penetrators will hit New Avalon in 3 hours. No warning, no evac. They'll glass the whole colony, every soul on it. Erin slung her pack tighter, grip steady on her Gauss rifle as she skirted a frigate hull, its etched sigil glowing faint blue in the dim emergency light. The Karine had marked this system a dead resource void 10,000 years prior, left this station untouched without so much as a warning buoy, too arrogant to admit they'd lost control of a weapons cache that could burn half their territory to ash. Now that arrogance was about to burn every human outpost in the sector if they screwed up. The intercom didn't say anything about launching, said carry the fire to the stars that abandoned us. If these birds fire blind, we're not just hitting the Karine, we're hitting our own people. The lead cruiser's airlock hissed before Javi could jack his data spike into the panel, metal sliding open on silent, well-oiled tracks. The corridor beyond pulsed with blue runes carved into the hull plating, air thick with the sharp, metallic smell of old plasma residue. At the far end of the hall, a Karine war priest stood motionless, his armor cracked open at the chest, a plasma caster fused to his right gauntlet, his head tilted at an unnatural angle. Javi's breath hitched. That's not stasis. That's automated sentry programming. The Karine didn't just lock the station away, they wired their dead to guard it. The war priest's head snapped up, his eye sockets flaring the same bright blue as the distant sphere. The runes along the walls flared brighter, and floor panels slid open, revealing a swarm of smaller chitinous sentry drones no bigger than a human fist, their mandibles clicking as they scuttled up the walls. Behind them, Rey's voice roared over the comms, crackling with static. Bulkheads buckled, the big mandible ones are through, Silva and Ortiz are holding, but the drones are getting around the flanks. Erin raised her rifle, but Javi grabbed her arm, pointing to a console mounted next to the war priest, its screen lit with Karine glyphs. It's a status readout. Stasis integrity is at 12% and dropping. If we don't activate the fleet command net in the next 60 seconds, the sphere's gonna overload, blow the whole station, every ship in the hangar with it. The war priest took a step forward, the plasma caster in his gauntlet whining as it charged blue light reflecting off the cracked visor of his helmet. Erin's finger tightened on her trigger, but she hesitated. The intercom's voice crackled in her earpiece again, sharp and unyielding. The test is not survival, it is choice. Carry our fire or let it burn you all. Javi was already jacking his data spike into the console, fingers flying over the haptic interface. I can shut down auto-launch, but I need 30 seconds to access the net. If that thing fires before I'm done, it's gonna punch through the cruiser's hull and hit the core. Rey's voice cut in, strained, the crack of Gauss fire roaring in the background. Bravo can't hold for another 30 seconds. The drones are in the hangar, they're heading for your position. Erin stepped in front of Javi, raising her rifle, aim locked on the war priest's glowing eye slots. The hum of the charging plasma caster grew louder, drowning out the thrum of the sphere, the click of the drones, the roar of the firefight behind them. She had 30 seconds to choose. Shoot the sentry, hope Javi could finish the hack before the core blew, or let the war priest fire and risk triggering the fleet's weapon systems before they could shut them down. The war priest's finger tightened on the plasma caster's trigger. The plasma caster's trigger clicked a quarter-inch forward, blue plasma licking the edges of the emitter as charge peaked to critical. Erin's HUD flared red, thermal warning screaming as the heat washed over her visor, searing the edges of her peripheral vision. Her finger was already tightening on the Gauss trigger, stock pressed hard into her shoulder when Javi's voice cut through the noise, sharp and unpanicked, the kind of tone he only used when his code was compiling. 3 seconds to net access, don't fire. That shot'll punch straight through the bulkhead and hit the unstable core segment we found in the lower deck. Blow the whole station, every ship in the hangar, all of us. Erin didn't move her aim, but she didn't pull the trigger. The war priest's glowing eye slots were fixed on Javi, not her. The plasma caster's hum drowning out the whine of incoming drones cutting through the hangar's entry seal behind him. Ray's voice crackled over the comms, ragged, the staccato crack of Gauss fire roaring in the background. Bravo is falling back to the secondary corridor. Drones breach in 5, I can't cover your position much longer. The sphere overhead spiked in pitch, a high whine that made the deck plates vibrate under Aaron's boots. The war priest's finger froze mid-pull. He tilted his head, the cracked visor reflecting the flickering blue light of the sphere, then lowered the plasma caster half an inch. The intercom's crackle came again, softer this time, almost curious. Choice made, prove it worthy. Javi's fingers flew across the haptic console, the interface lighting up green under his gloves. Net access achieved, auto-launch sequence disengaged, core is stabilizing but the fleet command layer is still locked. We need his override sigil to shut down their targeting locks, otherwise their picket ships will glass the hangar before we can get a defense grid online. Before Aaron could process the order, the hangar entry exploded inward, a swarm of Zythric combat drones spilling through the smoke, thrusters whining as they zeroed in on Javi's position. The war priest stepped forward, plasma caster firing in quick, precise bursts, each shot vaporizing a drone mid-flight before it could get within 10 meters of the console. He didn't look at Aaron, didn't look at the humans, his focus fixed on the drones swarming around him. Ray's squad poured through the entry behind the drones, laying down covering fire, the clack of their Gauss rifles mixing with the war priest's plasma bursts. The last drone dropped, melted alloy puddling on the deck. The war priest turned, held out his gauntleted right hand, the black spiral sigil of the Zythric Fleet Command glowing bright blue on the metal plating. Aaron lowered her rifle, stepped forward, took the sigil. It was warm to the touch through her glove, thrumming with faint energy. She slotted it into the port on her comms unit, the device beeping once as it synced with the fleet net. "This is Scavenger Alpha Actual, accessing Zythric Fleet Command," she said, voice steady, no tremor. "All vessels hold fire. This station is now under human control. Repeat, hold fire." Static crackled for 3 seconds, then the Zythric Fleet Commander's voice came through, cold, grudging. "Acknowledged. We will hold position for 12 standard hours. If you cannot prove command of the station by then, we will fire." The sphere overhead dimmed, its hum fading to a low thrum. The war priest turned back to the hangar's far wall, where a set of massive, carved doors stood half open, the dark corridors beyond swallowing the light from the hangar's lamps. He spoke, his voice translated by Aaron's comms, rough, uninflected. "The test is passed. You chose to protect the fire you did not light. The void edge is yours for as long as you can keep it. The horrors inside do not care who holds the sigil. They only care that you are there." Javi pulled his data spike out of the console, grinning, wiping sweat from his forehead. "Auto-launch is fully disabled, core is stable. We've got access to the station's life support and basic defense grids." "Dead yet?" Aaron looked from the sigil in her hand to the dark corridors beyond the doors, then out the hangar viewport where the Zythric fleet hung motionless in the void, their massive warships dwarfing the Scavengers' beat-up cruiser docked at the far end of the bay. The station creaked around them, a deep, low groan that vibrated through the deck plates like something massive shifting in the dark below. Ray's walked over, clapping Aaron on the shoulder, his helmet smeared with drone fluid. "First fight won. Now we just have to figure out what the hell is still awake in this place." Aaron nodded, slinging her rifle over her shoulder, stepping toward the carved doors. The war priest didn't move to stop her. The intercom crackled one last time, faint, almost a whisper. "Choose wisely." Chapter 6, the hollow core, the carved doors groaned wider as Aaron pressed forward, rifle angled low but ready. The corridor beyond swallowed the light, its walls etched with alien glyphs that pulsed faintly as if the station itself was breathing. Ray's fell in beside her, visor scanning, his voice clipped. "Movement sensors are unreliable, too much interference, stay sharp." Javi's boots clanged against the deck as he jogged up, data spike holstered. "I've got partial schematics. This passage leads toward the central core. Energy readings are erratic." Like something cycling on and off, Aaron's jaw tightened, or waking up. Behind them, the scavenger crew formed a staggered line, weapons raised. The hangar's silence gave way to a distant vibration, a low resonance that seemed to crawl along their bones. The war priest remained at the threshold, unmoving, his silhouette framed by the dying light of the hangar. The corridor stretched into a cathedral-like chamber. Massive pillars rose into shadow, each carved with depictions of alien fleets locked in battle. The Zythric Empire's arrogance was etched in stone, armadas crushing worlds, slaves kneeling beneath their war banners. Yet the carvings shifted as the humans advanced, the glyphs flickering into new forms, fleets burning, banners torn, figures screaming in silence. Rays muttered, they recorded their victories and their defeats. "This place is a tomb and a warning." Aaron raised her hand, halting the squad. At the chamber's center, a colossal sphere hovered above the deck, suspended by invisible force. Its surface rippled with light, patterns forming and dissolving in rapid succession. Javi's visor lit with data. "That's the station's core, not just power, command nexus, memory archive, maybe even consciousness. It's rewriting itself. The sphere pulsed, and the chamber's air thickened. A voice, metallic and layered, filled their comms without translation. Intrusion logged, identity irrelevant, function test endurance. The deck shuddered. From the shadows between the pillars, shapes unfolded, constructs of bone-white alloy, humanoid but elongated, their limbs jointed wrong. Their heads were featureless domes, glowing with internal fire. Ray's snapped his rifle up. Contact, the constructs moved with terrifying calm, no wasted motion, advancing in silence. Aaron fired first, her rounds sparking against alloy hide. Ray's followed, his shots punching through joints, dropping one construct in a heap of twitching limbs. Controlled bursts, Aaron barked. Aim for the seams, the chamber erupted in disciplined gunfire. The scavengers fought with precision, every shot calculated, every movement deliberate. Where the Zythric relied on overwhelming force, the humans relied on cold efficiency. Javi ducked behind a pillar, fingers flying across his wrist console. I can disrupt their link to the core, give me 30 seconds. Aaron covered him, firing in short bursts. A construct lunged, blade-like arms slicing through the air. Ray's intercepted, slamming his rifle butt into its dome, then finishing it with a point-blank shot. The sphere pulsed again, brighter, and the constructs froze mid-motion. The voice returned, colder. Endurance confirmed. Tation noted, escalation authorized. The chamber's walls split open, revealing deeper corridors. From within, heavier forms emerged, towering constructs, their frames bristling with weaponry grown from alien alloy. Ray swore under his breath, they're scaling up. Aaron's eyes narrowed. Then we scale smarter, she toggled her comms. Squad, shift formation, Javi prioritize overload, Ray's flank left. We're not here to win a war, we're here to survive long enough to learn what's inside the station. The towering constructs advanced, each step shaking the deck. Their weapons hummed, charging with lethal energy. Aaron felt the weight of the sigil in her hand, its surface warm, pulsing in rhythm with the core. The war priest's words echoed in her mind. The horrors inside do not care who holds the sigil. They only care that you are there. She raised the sigil high. The sphere reacted instantly, its surface rippling, light cascading across the chamber. The constructs hesitated, their weapons faltering. Javi shouted, it's interfacing. Aaron, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. The voice returned, layered with distortion. Bearer of sigil, access granted. Trial continues. The towering constructs lowered their weapons, stepping back into shadow. The chamber fell silent, save for the hum of the sphere. Ray's exhaled, sweat streaking his visor. That was too close. Aaron lowered the sigil, her grip steady. We're not done. This station isn't just abandoned, it's testing us. And if we fail, it won't matter who's waiting outside. The Zythric fleet, the scavenger cruiser, none of it will matter. Javi's console pinged. I've got partial access. The core's opening pathways deeper into the station, but there's something else, records of battles fought here, not just against humans. Against empires older than the Zythric. Aaron's gaze hardened. Then we're walking into the graveyard of civilizations. And whatever killed them is still awake. The chamber's far wall split open, revealing a vast descent into darkness. The air carried a faint metallic tang, like blood long dried. Ray's adjusted his rifle, voice low. We go down, we might not come back. Aaron stepped forward, her tone calm, unyielding. Then we go down prepared, because if this station holds weapons or knowledge that can break the Zythric, we need it. Humanity needs it. The squad followed, their boots echoing against the ancient alloy. The sphere dimmed behind them, its patterns shifting once more, as if watching. Far above, beyond the hangar's viewport, the Zythric fleet remained motionless, their warships blotting out the stars. They waited, arrogant and patient, certain that the humans would falter. But inside the colossal station, the scavengers pressed deeper, calm in the face of horrors that had already devoured empires. And the station whispered, faint but clear, trial escalates. Chapter 7, Descent Protocols. The stairwell plunged into a shaft wider than any human-built fortress. Alloy ribs arched overhead, each one humming faintly, as if the station's bones remembered war. The squad moved in silence, rifles angled, eyes scanning. Every step carried them deeper into a place where empires had come to die. Javi's voice cut through the comms. Sensors are blind, no thermal, no M signatures. It's like the station's swallowing our scans. Ray's muttered, or masking them. Means something down here doesn't want to be seen. Aaron kept her tone level, the kind of calm that steadied men who knew they might not return. Then we assume contact at any moment, tight formation, no chatter unless it's critical. The descent ended in a cavernous hall. The walls were etched with reliefs, alien fleets locked in battle, their ships carved in brutal detail. Human eyes could barely parse the scale, but the message was clear. Arrogance had met annihilation here. Ray's raised his rifle toward the carvings. These empires thought they were untouchable, same as the Zythric outside. Aaron studied the reliefs, her jaw set, and they were broken not by us, by whatever this station unleashed. A low vibration rolled through the hall, subtle but undeniable. The floor plates trembled. Javi's console flickered, streams of alien glyphs racing across his visor. It's activating. Trial escalation confirmed. The station's rewriting its own architecture. Panels slid open along the walls, revealing recesses filled with dormant constructs, angular frames, half organic, half machine. Their eyes glowed faintly like embers waiting for air. Reyes swore under his breath, "Guardians, automated defense, they're waking." Aaron's voice was steel. "Weapons free, controlled bursts, don't waste ammo. We're not here to win a war, just survive it long enough to reach the core." The constructs stirred, limbs unfolding with insect precision. Their movements were silent, predatory. The squad opened fire, muzzle flashes strobing against the ancient alloy. Rounds punched through carapace plating, sparks spraying, but the constructs adapted, armor shifting, absorbing impacts. Javi shouted, "They're learning, every shot makes them harder to kill." Aaron pivoted, firing a short burst into a construct's joint. It collapsed, twitching. "Target weak points, knees, elbows, neck seams, don't give them time to adjust." The squad adjusted instantly, their discipline honed by years scavenging hostile ruins. Reyes dropped two with precise shots to the throat. Javi overloaded his rifle's capacitor, burning through a guardian's chest. The hall filled with smoke and the stench of scorched alloy, but for every construct that fell, another stirred. The station wasn't testing their firepower, it was measuring their adaptability. Aaron realized it first. This isn't a battle, it's an evaluation. The station wants to know if we can think under pressure. Reyes gritted his teeth. "Then let's show it we can." He switched tactics, using suppressive fire to drive constructs into choke points. Javi rerouted his visor feed, mapping structural weaknesses in the floor plates. Aaron coordinated, her commands clipped, surgical. "Left flank collapse that section. Reyes pin them. Javi overload the grid." The squad moved like a single organism. A section of the floor detonated, dropping 3 constructs into the abyss below. The remaining guardians hesitated, their programming faltering. Then, as suddenly as it began, the constructs froze, their eyes dimmed. The hall fell silent except for the squad's ragged breathing. Javi's visor cleared, trial escalation complete, station registers success. Aaron lowered her rifle, scanning the hall. "It's not done, that was the first measure, it's going to push harder." Reyes spat onto the alloy floor. "Let it, we're still standing." The reliefs on the walls shifted, the carvings rearranging themselves into new patterns. This time, the fleets depicted were human, fragile ships dwarfed by alien armadas. Yet in the final panel, the human vessels pierced through, striking at the heart of empires. Aaron's gaze locked on the image. "It knows us, it's showing us what we could become." Javi's console pinged again. "Pathway unlocked, core access deeper below, but there's a warning." Translation reads, "Final trial engages memory of extinction." Reyes frowned. "Memory of extinction sounds like it wants us to face whatever killed those empires." Aaron's voice was calm, resolute. "Then that's where we go. Because if humanity's going to survive the Zythric, we need to understand what destroyed them, and we need to prove we're stronger." The squad regrouped, weapons checked, formation tightened. Hall's far wall split open, revealing another descent, this one lined with pulsing conduits, veins of light running like blood through the station's body. As they stepped forward, the station whispered again, louder this time, resonating in their bones, "Trial escalates." And far above, the Zythric fleet remained motionless, arrogant in their certainty. They believed the humans would break. But inside the colossal station, the scavengers pressed deeper, calm in the face of horrors that had already devoured empires. The next descent promised extinction or ascension, and the void-edge scavengers walked toward it without hesitation. The graded descent groaned under their boots, each step sending vibrations up the conduits lining the walls that pulsed brighter the deeper they went. Javi's HUD flickered, throwing up radiation spikes that didn't match any entry in the UNSC Xeno database. "Suit power draw spiking 12% and climbing," he muttered, tapping his wrist display to clear the static. "These conduits are siphoning core energy directly, no fail-safes." "My HUD's throwing up every radiation warning in the book. None of it matches specs we have on file for Zythric tech." Reyes held up a closed fist, the squad halting mid-step. Her suit's external sensors pinged loud enough to crackle over the comms. Ambient air pressure dropped 10 millibars in the last 30 seconds. "Hold," she said, knuckles white behind the carbine weave of her glove where her hand rested on her holstered plasma pistol. "Atmosphere's bleeding out somewhere deeper. Could be a hull breach, could be intentional vent." The station whispered again, louder this time, the sound vibrating in the fillings of their teeth. The far wall of the descent dissolved into a haze of blue-white light, and the projection that formed made Aaron's breath catch. It was a Zythric colony world, the kind they'd burned 3 human border outposts to claim 6 months prior. Orbital defense platforms glinted in its upper atmosphere, flanked by a wing of Ian-class battlecruisers, the same class that had blockaded Titan Station for 3 weeks before the Void-Edge scavengers broke the siege. Then the sky split open. A cloud of bioluminescent needle-thin filaments poured from a rift in space, no ship, no launch signature, just appearing. The Zythric fired everything: plasma torpedoes, antimatter warheads, point defense lasers. The filaments absorbed every hit, growing brighter, thicker, as they drifted toward the surface. The projection zoomed in and Aaron could see the Zythric civilians on the surface, their four-limbed forms scrambling as the cloud touched the first city. There was no explosion, no fire, just silence as every organic and electronic object within 1,000 clicks disintegrated into dust. Memory of extinction, Ray's breath, the color drained from her face. That's what wiped the first Zythric empire, the one that vanished without a trace 12,000 years ago. All these xenoarchaeologists thought it was a supernova. Before Aaron could respond, the filaments seeped out of the projection, solid enough to burn when they brushed the pauldron of her suit. Javi yelped, slapping at a fleck that had landed on his helmet visor. It sizzled, eating through the polycarbonate layer before his auto-sealer activated. Power cells draining fast. These things feed on high-energy emissions. My HUD's running on 30% now and dropping. Ray's raised her plasma rifle, firing 3 quick low-power rounds at the cloud mass. The bolts passed straight through, no effect. Sidearms only, Aaron ordered, her voice sharp, steady, the calm she was known for cutting through the rising panic. Cut all non-essential power, weapons, HUDs, life support down to minimum. They're drawn to the energy output. They fumbled with their suit controls, shutting down systems, the descent plunging into near darkness lit only by the faint pulse of the conduits and the burning edges of the filament cloud eating at the walls. The psychic scream of the dying Zythric colonists echoed in their heads, a low, thrumming wail that made Aaron's vision swim for a second. Javi gagged, doubling over until Ray's clapped him on the shoulder, her own jaw tight with the effort of blocking out the noise. Aaron pulled the cracked data spike they descavenged from the wreckage of the Zythric blockade runner off Titan, the one etched with the same alien sigil carved into the station's entrance walls. She jammed it into the exposed conduit port at the base of the wall, the metal hot under her glove. For 3 seconds, nothing. Then the filaments froze, retracting back into the projection, which shifted to the carving they'd seen in the entry hall, the fragile human ships piercing the heart of these Zythric armadas. The station's voice boomed, no longer a whisper, clear as a command transmission. Trial passed. Extinction event, Zythrician class doomsday device uncontrolled. Prison protocol engaged, core access granted. Javi's HUD pinged, power levels stabilizing. The conduits, they're not feeding a weapon, they're feeding the prison locks. This whole station is a vault for the thing that wiped out their first empire. Aaron nodded, yanking the data spike free. Above them, through the station's upper hull viewport, they could see the Zythric fleet, which had remained motionless for hours, finally shift. Weapon ports flared bright blue, charging for a full salvo. They thought we'd wake the doomsday, Aaron said, checking her sidearm's power cell, now at 98%. They've been waiting for someone to turn it on for them. We just proved we're not that stupid. Ray's grinned, racking the slide of her pistol, the sound loud in the quiet descent. Core access is deeper. Let's go show them what humans do with abandoned superweapons. Chapter 9, Core Descent. The elevator shaft was a hollow throat of steel and alien resin plunging into the station's abyss. Aaron led, rifle angled down, visor light cutting through the haze. The hum of the conduits was steady now, like a heartbeat. Ray's checked her flank, muttering, feels like we're walking into the lungs of something that's still breathing. Javi's HUD flickered with telemetry. Power distribution is stabilizing across all decks. The locks are cycling. Whatever's in the core, it's waking. Aaron's voice was calm, clipped. Then we move faster. Human doctrine, secure, assess, exploit, no hesitation. The descent ended in a cavernous chamber. The walls were lined with containment pylons, each one etched with the sigil of the Zythric Empire. At the center, suspended in a lattice of magnetic fields, was a sphere the size of a destroyer's bridge. Its surface rippled, not metal, not plasma, something in between. It pulsed with a rhythm that matched the conduits above. Ray's raised her weapon. That's not a device, that's alive. The station's voice thundered again, shaking dust from the rafters. Prisoner, Ian-class entity, status contained. Threat level extinction, protocol awaiting judgment. Javi swallowed hard. They didn't build a weapon, they built a cage, and inside is the thing that ended their empire. Aaron stepped forward, scanning the sphere. The Zythric thought they could harness it. They failed. Now they're outside, waiting for us to release it. They want their empire reborn on the back of this monster. Above, the hull trembled. The Zythric fleet had begun firing test salvos, blue lances of energy striking the station's shields. The impact reverberated through the chamber, but the shields held. For now, Ray's keyed her comm. Command, this is Scavenger Team Alpha. We've reached the core. Containment is intact. Repeat, intact, but the Zythric are hammering the shields. Static hissed, then Command's voice cut through. Alpha, you are authorized to secure the entity. Do not release. Repeat, do not release. Extract data. Sabotage if possible. Humanity cannot afford another empire rising. Aaron nodded. Copy. We'll make sure this cage stays locked. Javi tapped into the console at the chamber's edge. Alien glyphs scrolled across his visor. There's a failsafe. If containment is breached, the station initiates self-destruct, but the Zythric know that. They'll try to override it. Ray's smirked. Then we make sure they choke on their own arrogance. The sphere pulsed brighter as if aware of their presence. A voice, not the station-S, but something deeper, slid into their minds. Cold, vast, ancient. Humans, small, fragile, yet you walk where empires died. Release me, and I will burn your enemies. Refuse, and I will wait. Eternity is mine. Aaron's jaw tightened. We don't negotiate with extinction events. Javi's hands shook as he locked down the console. It's probing us, testing our resolve. If we falter, it'll break free. Ray's raised her pistol, aiming at the sphere, though she knew it was useless. Then let's show it what resolve looks like. The chamber lights dimmed. The station's voice returned, louder, urgent. Judgment required. Choose, release or contain. Delay is not permitted. Aaron's team exchanged glances. Outside, the Zythric fleet's bombardment intensified, shields flaring under the assault. Inside, the entity pressed against its cage, ripples distorting the magnetic lattice. Aaron spoke, her tone steady, commanding. Contain. Humanity survives by discipline, not desperation. The console locked, glyphs freezing. The station's voice boomed, judgment accepted. Containment reinforced, self-destruct authorization transferred to human command. Javi exhaled, relief flooding his voice. We've got control. The station listens to us now. Ray's grin, teeth bared. Then let's turn their prison into our fortress. Above, the viewport showed the Zythric fleet regrouping, their formations tightening. They had realized the humans weren't going to release the entity. They were preparing for full assault. Aaron checked her rifle, power cell glowing steady. They wanted us to be their pawns. Instead, we're the wardens, and wardens don't break. The chamber shook again, harder this time. Shields were failing. The Zythric were bringing their capital ships into range. Javi's HUD screamed warnings. Impact in 60 seconds. If they breach, containment collapses. Aaron's eyes narrowed. Then we fight. Not for glory, not for empire, for survival. Humanity doesn't bow. Rays chambered around, the sound sharp, final. Let us show them what happens when you corner scavengers. The sphere pulsed once more, its voice echoing faintly. Humans, you choose chains, but chains rust. I will wait. Aaron ignored it, focusing on the fleet outside. Team Alpha positions. We hold the core. Humanity's edge is not in weapons, but in will, and our will does not break. The chamber lights flared, shields groaned, and the first salvo struck. The war for the station had begun. Chapter 10, Void Edge Scavengers Unearth Colossal Abandoned Alien Station, and its dark horrors are still awake, ASF. The chamber's tremors became a steady rhythm, each impact from the Zythric fleet hammering against the station's failing shields. Sparks cascaded from the overhead conduits, the air thick with ozone and the metallic tang of ruptured circuits. Rays braced against the console, his jaw tight. Status, he barked. Javi's fingers flew across the glyph interface, translating alien code into human command lines. Shields at 20%, hull integrity compromised on 3 decks. If they push another salvo, we're exposed. Aaron's voice cut through, calm and sharp. Then we don't wait for them to breach, we take the fight outside. Rays turned, eyes narrowing. You're suggesting we launch against the capital fleet with scavenger craft. Aaron chambered her rifle again, the sound deliberate. I'm suggesting we remind them humanity doesn't measure strength in tonnage, we measure it in resolve. The station's voice pulsed faintly, resonating through the walls. Resolve is brittle. Empires grind resolve into dust. Rays slammed a fist against the console. Empires rot. Dust feeds the next fire, and we're the fire. Outside the viewport, the Zythric fleet shifted formation. Their capital ships aligned in a spearhead, energy lances charging. The alien arrogance was palpable, and Empire convinced humans were scavengers playing with relics they couldn't comprehend. Javi's HUD flared red. Incoming lance strike, 40 seconds. Aaron snapped orders. Alpha team split formation. Raise, you're with me. Javi, reroute containment power to weapons grid. If this station wants to live, it fights with us. Javi hesitated. That drains the failsafe. If containment slips, Aaron's eyes locked on his. Then we die fighting, not waiting. The glyphs responded, alien circuits bending under human command. The station's dormant weapon arrays hummed awake, massive cannons swiveling toward the fleet. Rays grinned, feral. Now we're talking. The first lance struck, a beam of searing energy tearing across the shields. The chamber shook violently, but the cannons answered, 3 colossal blasts ripping into the Zythric spearhead. One capital ship erupted in flame, its hull splitting apart, debris scattering like shattered glass. Javi exhaled. Direct hit. They didn't expect the station to bite back. Aaron's voice was steel. They thought we'd kneel. Instead, we command their nightmare. The fleet recoiled, formations breaking, arrogance cracking under the sudden reversal. But the Zythric regrouped quickly, their discipline honed by centuries of conquest. Smaller frigates surged forward, weaving through debris, targeting the station's weak points. Rays cursed. They're adapting. We need to push harder. Aaron raised her rifle, eyes on the viewport. then we adapt faster. Humanity's edge isn't brute force, it's improvisation. The station's voice whispered again, almost amused. Improvisation is chaos. Chaos births ruin. Aaron ignored it. Chaos births survival. Javi rerouted power, sweat streaking his brow. Weapon grid stable. But containment is slipping. The entity's restraints are at 70%. Rays snarled. We hold the line. If that thing gets loose, the Zythric won't matter. The cannons fired again, tearing through another frigate. Explosions lit the void, the battlefield a storm of fire and wreckage, yet the Zythric pressed on, their arrogance refusing retreat. Aaron's comm crackled. Alpha 2 reporting, docking bay breached, hostiles boarding. Rays slammed a fresh magazine into his rifle. Then we fight inside and out. Aaron's tone was razor sharp. Alpha 2, hold the bay. No Zythric touches the core. The chamber doors hissed open, shadows moving in the corridor. The first wave of Zythric soldiers stormed in, their armor gleaming, weapons humming with alien energy. Rays raised his rifle. Welcome to hell, the firefight erupted, brutal in close quarters. Human rounds tore through alien armor, each shot precise, deliberate. The Zythric fired back, energy blasts scorching walls, cutting through consoles. Sparks and blood mingled in the chaos. Aaron moved like a phantom, every shot calculated, every movement efficient. Rays fought with raw aggression, his rifle an extension of fury. Javi ducked behind cover, firing bursts while his hands still worked the console, balancing containment and weapons. The station's voice grew louder, resonating with the chaos. Humans, you choose war, war feeds me, I wait. Aaron snarled, firing a shot that dropped a Zythric soldier mid-charge. We don't fight for you, we fight because survival is ours alone. The chamber shook again, another lance strike piercing the shields. Javi shouted over the din. Shields collapsing, 10%. Rays kicked a fallen Zythric aside, reloading. Then we bleed them before we fall. Aaron's comm flared once more. Alpha 3 reporting, secondary hull breach, casualties heavy. Her jaw tightened. Hold positions, humanity doesn't bow. The cannons fired again, a desperate volley. Another capital ship shattered, its arrogance silenced in flame. The fleet faltered, hesitation rippling through their ranks. Javi's voice was strained. Containment at 50%. If we keep draining power, the entity breaks free. Aaron's eyes narrowed. Then we gamble. Better we risk the monster than surrender to Empire. Rays spat blood, grinning through the chaos. Scavengers don't surrender. We take what's left and make it ours. The chamber lights flickered, the station groaning under the strain. The entity's sphere pulsed, its voice echoing with eerie calm. Chains rust, empires fall, humans endure. Aaron raised her rifle, eyes blazing. Endure, no, we fight. And fighting is survival. Outside, the Zythric fleet hesitated, arrogance cracking under the relentless human defiance. Inside, the firefight raged, scavengers holding the core against impossible odds. The war for the station was no longer about containment. It was about proving that humanity, scavengers or not, would never bow to Empire. And as the cannons roared once more, the void itself seemed to tremble at the will of humans who refused to break. Chapter 11, the station's heart. The alien station shuddered like a dying beast, its colossal frame echoing with the thunder of weapons fire. Human scavenger squads pressed deeper, rifles barking, grenades detonating in tight arcs. The Zythric defenders, once smug in their empire's superiority, now faltered under the relentless precision of human assault. Aaron's voice cut through the comms, sharp and steady, pushed to the core. Rays flank left, Javi keep containment stable. If that entity breaks loose, we're all corpses. Rays wiped blood from his visor, his grin feral. Copy, left flank, let's carve them open. He motioned his squad forward, boots pounding across fractured plating. The scavengers moved like predators, silent between bursts of gunfire, their discipline unnerving even to allies. The Zythric commander shrieked orders, mandibles clacking, but his troops hesitated. They had never faced humans who fought without fear, who treated death as a transaction rather than a terror. Their arrogance cracked, and hesitation spread like infection. Aaron advanced, rifle steady, eyes locked on the pulsing sphere at the chamber's center. The entity's voice whispered again, calm and resonant. Empires crumble, chains break, humanity hungers. Javi's hands flew across the console, sweat streaking his brow. Containment at 30%. If we keep draining power for weapons, the sphere destabilizes. Aaron's jaw tightened. Then we balance on the knife, hold it together, Javi. We need that monster chained until we decide otherwise. The firefight surged. Ray's squad tore through the left flank, cutting down Zythric warriors with brutal efficiency. Explosions rattled the chamber, smoke curling into the void. The scavengers pressed forward, their movements precise, their silence more terrifying than any war cry. A sudden tremor rocked the station. The sphere flared, casting shadows that writhed like living things. The entity's tone shifted, colder, sharper. Release me and I will devour your enemies. Keep me bound and I will devour you. Rays barked a laugh, firing another burst. Sounds like every deal we've ever made. Difference is we don't trust anyone, not even gods in cages. Aaron's comm crackled. Alpha 3 down to half strength, casualties mounting. She forced steel into her voice. Hold, humanity doesn't bow, not to empire, not to monsters. We hold, the Zythric commander screeched, desperation bleeding into his tone. Humans, you cannot control what you awaken, you doom us all. Aaron's reply was ice. We were doomed the moment your empire thought scavengers were prey, now you learn what predators look like. The scavengers surged again, grenades detonating, rifles hammering. The Zythric line broke, arrogance collapsing into panic. Their retreat was chaotic, their discipline shattered. Javi's console screamed warnings. Containment at 20%. Aaron, if we keep this up, the entity breaches. Aaron's eyes locked on the sphere, its surface rippling with unnatural light. She spoke with calm finality. Then we gamble. Better we risk the monster than surrender to empire. The entity's voice deepened, resonant enough to shake the plating beneath their boots. Yes, gamble. Humans thrive on risk. Release me and I will show you what survival truly means. Ray spat blood, his grin widening. Scavengers don't surrender. We take what's left and make it ours, even if what's left is a nightmare. The chamber lights flickered, the station groaning under the strain. The sphere pulsed, its glow intensifying, shadows stretching across the walls like claws. Aaron raised her rifle, eyes blazing. Endure, no, we fight, and fighting is survival. Outside, the human fleet pressed the advantage. Another Zythric capital ship shattered under cannon fire, arrogance silenced in flame. The fleet faltered, hesitation rippling through their ranks. Inside, the scavengers held the core against impossible odds. The firefight was no longer about containment. It was about proving that humanity, scavengers or not, would never bow to empire. The entity's voice rose, echoing through the chamber. Chains rust, empires fall, humans endure. Aaron's reply was a whisper, but it carried like a blade. We don't endure. We conquer, the cannons roared once more, shaking the void itself. The station trembled, the sphere cracked, and the war for survival reached its breaking point. Humanity stood at the edge of annihilation, facing empire and monster alike. And in that crucible, the scavengers proved the truth. Survival was not endurance, survival was defiance. The void listened, and it trembled. Chapter 12, the station's last breath. The alien station convulsed like a dying beast, its skeletal corridors shuddering under the relentless pounding of human artillery outside. The scavengers braced themselves against the tremors, weapons raised, eyes locked on the fractured sphere at the chamber's heart. Status, Ray's barked, voice raw but steady. Aaron checked her wrist display, the numbers flickering erratically. Containment's failing. Whatever's inside that sphere, it's bleeding into the station. The entity's voice slithered through the air, layered and resonant, neither male nor female, but something older. You break the cage, you invite the dark, humanity gambles with extinction. Ray spat again, blood streaking his chin. Extinction's just another word for challenge. The scavengers tightened formation. Their rifles hummed, charged to maximum. The chamber lights dimmed, shadows stretching like talons across the walls. The cracked sphere pulsed, fissures glowing with a sickly brilliance. Outside, the human fleet pressed harder. The arrogance of the Zythric Empire shattered with each capital ship torn apart. Their formations faltered, hesitation spreading like contagion. The humans, outnumbered, outgunned, fought with precision and cold defiance. Command confirms, Aaron said, voice clipped. Fleet's breaking them, but if this station goes, it'll take half our ships with it. Ray's grinned, teeth red. Then we cut the throat before it screams. The entity's laughter reverberated, metallic and hollow. You think yourselves predators. You are carrion, gnawing at bones of empires. Aaron raised her rifle, barrel steady. Carrion survives, empires rot. The firefight erupted again. Alien constructs surged from the walls, metallic husks animated by the sphere's leaking energy. Their movements were jagged, unnatural, as if puppeted by unseen strings. Plasma bolts tore through the chamber, ricocheting off shattered plating. Left flank, Rays shouted. Two scavengers pivoted, unleashing controlled bursts. The constructs collapsed, limbs twitching before dissolving into ash. Aaron advanced, every step deliberate. She fired point-blank into another construct, its chest cavity imploding. Push forward, end this. The sphere cracked wider, a fissure splitting across its surface. A torrent of light spilled out, searing the chamber. The entity's voice rose, thunderous now. Chains rust, empires fall, humanity breaks. Rays staggered, but his grin never faltered. We don't break, we bend the void until it serves us. The scavengers pressed closer to the sphere. Their rifles fired in unison, concentrated volleys hammering the core. The chamber shook violently, plating tearing free, debris raining down. Outside, the fleet's cannons roared. Another Zythric cruiser disintegrated, arrogance silenced in fire. The Empire's command channels fractured, their discipline unraveling. Inside, the scavengers reached the sphere. Aaron placed her palm against its surface, the heat blistering her skin. She didn't flinch. This ends now. The entity screamed, a sound that was not sound but pressure, crushing against their skulls. You cannot kill what endures. Aaron's whisper cut through the roar. We don't endure, we conquer. She triggered the charge. The detonation ripped through the chamber, a blinding surge of energy. The sphere imploded, collapsing inward, dragging the constructs with it. The entity's voice fractured, splintered into static. Outside, the station convulsed, its colossal frame buckling. Shockwaves rippled through the void, tearing apart Zythric formations. Human ships braced, shields flaring, but they held. Ray's staggered, coughing blood, but his eyes burned with triumph. Scavengers don't surrender, we take what's left, even nightmares. The chamber fell silent, the sphere was gone. Only scorched plating remained, glowing faintly. Erin lowered her rifle, breath steady despite the burns across her hand. She looked at Ray's, then at the surviving scavengers. We proved it. Survival isn't endurance, it's defiance. Outside, the fleet regrouped, their formation tightening. The Zythric Empire reeled, arrogance shattered, their command broken. Humanity stood bloodied but unbowed, scavengers at the edge of annihilation, proving once more that the void itself could tremble before them. The station's last breath echoed through the silence, and humanity claimed the dark.